You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Bitcoin, Ether, Solana, Doge, and more. Cryptocurrencies and digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity, provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments throughout the world's leading crypto derivatives markets. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of crypto derivatives. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
All right, everybody, that music means we are back. It is Monday, time to dive into the crypto waters, see how choppy, indeed stormy they are this week. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com. Reminding you should be checking out the full network. A lot of great shows waiting there for you, including a lot of shows that touch on crypto in a variety of capacities out there, and educational content like Options Bootcamp will help get you up to speed on the whole options thing. And of course, if you want to go above and beyond, you want to join us for some awesome pro Q&As like tomorrow with our good buddy, Mr. Dr. Vix, who famously washed his hands of Ether a few years ago and crypto. Maybe he's back in. I think IBIT has maybe lured him to the dark side. We'll find out tomorrow on the pro Q&A, options oddities at the end of the week, live streams, giveaways, your own pro podcast feed, all kinds of stuff. Nearly 500 episodes waiting for you. The second you hit that join button, where do you go to do just that? Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go as we go around and see who's joining us on the old Crypto Rundown program. This week, I'm pleased to welcome back our old pal, Mr. Bill, a.k.a. Bill Ulivieri from Cenacle Capital Management. Mr. Bill, welcome back to the show, sir.
Thank you, Mark. Great to be back.
You have some good timing, sir. A little bit afoot, some stuff to discuss.
My head is spinning, Mark. My head is spinning.
All right, let's all spin together right on into the Bitcoin breakdown.
It's time to explore the latest trending activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Bitcoin Breakdown, the portion of the show where we do just that. We break down all the action in the world's leading digital asset, which is Bitcoin. Except for right now, Mr. Bill, a lot of folks may not know, also moonlights. In fact, his actual day job is as a traditional asset manager, even though he does like this crypto stuff. So he's been grappling with all this madness along with the rest of us. Before we dive into all the crypto madness, Mr. Bill, let's start there. Obviously, a lot of tumult in traditional equity fixed income markets out there these days. pretty much the worst rout we've seen since the massive meltdown in March of 2020 due to COVID. Came in hot this morning. It looks like we were heading into a bear market with the S&P, all these tariffs really gumming up the waters out there. The S&P did break green ever so briefly, so you're talking multiple 100-point handle swings in both directions intraday. It's a lot of wild stuff. What are your thoughts on all this tumult we're seeing out there right now? And are you out there licking your chops saying bye, bye, bye? Or are you maybe hoping for another leg down or dreading another leg down? Where are you hanging out right now in traditional assets, sir?
And the traditional side, as I said, I mean, just when you think you got to figure it out, right? I mean, Mark, you and I have been doing this for 40 years, and it has been a tough market, okay? And so I will say this. Am I buy? I would say I'm really close, like maybe today or tomorrow. I mean, we've been selling some cash secured put options in our client accounts. We got assigned on some weeklies and Coinbase, NVIDIA, QQQ, and not MSTR. I can't remember the other one right now. But, on Friday, so we came in Monday, long shares today, came in long shares. And so we sold, we know what our lower basis price is. We know what price that we're long these stocks at. So because they're in 401ks and rollover IRAs, we sold some way out of the money stuff just to collect a little bit of money for the next couple of days. Because I do believe like this washout that we've seen is like ridiculous. And from a technical standpoint, from just a sheer throw the baby out with the bathwater, I mean, like you said, the VIX closed at 45 on Friday. It's trading in the mid 50s today. And honestly, you go back in time, there's never been a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 year rate of return performance. I mean, how can I say this? Every time the VIX closed at 45, around the 45 area, we've had positive 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 year rate of returns. So I think that this is the volatility is going to be our friend for the rest of this year, and people should better get their arms around the option side because I don't have that much of a position on it for clients, and I'm making $1,100 a day in theta. Like it's like a no brainer. It's so anyhow. Did I answer your question? Because I'm all over the place.
No, yes, you did. And you mentioned Coinbase. That is a way a lot of people like to play crypto in aggregate. And looking at these levels right now, you're right. It hit a new 52-week low this morning, 142.58. That's below, listeners, where it was in the August 5th meltdown of last year, about 50 handles below that. And it kept selling off last year into September. It was like it got down to around 147 last September, and we are even below that. Of course, it has rallied back a bit now. But yeah, a wild day out there. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on. And of course, a lot going on in the world of Bitcoin, listeners. And for the most part, it's been an interesting market to watch. People have tried to argue for a long time Bitcoin is this non-correlated or maybe inversely correlated asset. Depends on which camp you fall into. But what traditionally happens is when it all hits the fan, correlation tends to go to 1. In fact, I think our buddy Mr. Greg from Amber Data was pointing that out in his newsletter just today, actually. So a lot of people were expecting that with Bitcoin last week, with the markets getting sucked south. Bitcoin traditionally tends to follow. Some people argue it's a high-tech allocation at the end of the day because it correlates well to some of those high-tech assets. But we didn't see that. As the market was melting down, Bitcoin remained firm and actually rallied a bit towards the end of the week. Gave some of that back over the weekend, and coming into the start of the show today, 79,112 is where we were in Bitcoin. So obviously back below the 80K level. On our show last week, 83,392. So a lot of living over the course of the past week out there, listeners, as markets and indeed crypto coming to grips with just all of this madness on the global trade war front. Mr. Bill, sir, some surprising performance in Bitcoin last week. Didn't really last through the weekend, and now we are back in the red. What are your thoughts on what Bitcoin's been up to of late, sir?
Well, I got to be honest with you. I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts. Some of it is, the tin hat kind of things, and other stuff is rock solid economic. And I just asked myself, like, you look at this Magnificent Seven, Scott Bessent, their Treasury Secretary, said that this is not a trade tariff issue, this decline. This is a Magnificent Seven issue. And he's not wrong. I mean, if you look at the Mag 7 stocks year to date, they're down, like from the high, they're down almost 30% as of this morning. Although we have Palantir, NVIDIA, Facebook, Meta on the positive side. So what I think is happening is, forgive me for saying this, but I look at all the money that stopped flowing out of the United States with Doge, right? Elon Musk, Trump, and Doge. USAID, all the NGO, non-government organizations, like all this money that was going outside, who knows what was going on with it. And you got to say that some of it's got to have been in Bitcoin and in these tech stocks. Like, I know it sounds crazy, but it makes sense that this can't just all be about the expectation of tariffs. This is also a money issue. It's an interest rate issue. It's a global liquidity issue. It's all the issues going on in Europe. And I think, like our buddy from Amber Data, how when things go down, all the correlations go to one. And that's what we're seeing with Bitcoin. And I think it's been completely rug pulled as a technology? Absolutely not. I'm still firmly engaged in its value proposition, the Bitcoin strategic reserve, and all that stuff. But boy, oh boy, it has been a tough permeable kind of position lately. When we've seen the kind of routing that we've gotten in Bitcoin and some of the other alt tokens.
Let's talk about that route out there, shall we, listeners? And you're right, it was a wild week ending, on Friday on the traditional session. Got up to around 84, almost 85,000 in Bitcoin. So obviously, giving a lot of that back over the weekend. We got down, looks like as low as about 75,000 this morning in the Great Nadir when the S&P was in a bear market and everything was looking pretty terrible out there. And the administration's threatening more tariffs on China and everything else. It seemed like the bottom was kind of falling out. Of course, have rebounded a bit from those levels out there. By the way, if you're wondering what our buddy Greg thinks, you should be checking out their newsletter over there at Amber Data. He was surprised vol buyers weren't rewarded more for their diligence last week in Bitcoin. You'll see that when we crunch the numbers in a little bit out there. He says crypto was a first mover in terms of price weakness post-inauguration. That's what he blamed some of that sell-off on. So maybe this past week was actually maybe a bit of a pause on that because Bitcoin's kind of already been selling off a bit. Maybe other markets have to catch up. Speaking of catching up, he does think if equity vol, aka VIX, your gold vol, bond vol, everything else all continue to go screaming higher, he thinks crypto vol will be heading north, but he doesn't mean dive in and get long a bunch of vol here. He says he's suspicious of being long Bitcoin, or even worse, he says ETH vol here. So interesting stuff here. And he also points out, like I said, he thinks the volatility clustering effect is true and correlation does go to one at the end of the day when things get crazy. Let's see how crazy things are out there, listeners. Let's go run some of Greg's numbers and see what his platform is telling us. Weekly vol ticking up a wee bit. We were at a 55 on the show last week, 65 today, so ticking up a bit. But again, as kind of Greg points out, maybe not quite the bonanza, the windfall that the long vol buyers wanted or hoped for out there in Bitcoin land. 30-day vol ticking up a little bit as well. Nearly a 50 on our show last week, 49.6, 55.5 right now. Again, we're seeing VIX soaring into the stratosphere, kissing a 60 handle in VIX cash earlier. So wild times out there, getting into the 50s now and hanging out there during the day. You see that kind of move in equity vol, you might be forgiven for expecting a little bit more bang for your vol buck in Bitcoin. Not exactly materializing. 180-day vol on the Bitcoin front was a 53 last week, 55 this week. Skew-wise, that's always interesting to watch in markets like these to see where the sentiment is shaping up from an options perspective. Coming into our show last week, it was pretty decidedly negative. It was almost a -6 on the weekly skew, -5.65. It did get lower since our last show, though. Got down to about a -16 yesterday on Sunday. Now, usually we see it on the weekends. Things are pretty thin. That's when we see, the nadir or the apex of skew usually for the week. Coming into the start of the show today, it was positive again, +1.5. So again, kind of showing how wild that intraday skew has been on the weekly front. I'm sure if I re-rack that again right now, we get a completely different number because that's how wild it is out there. Going out to the 30-day skew front, the monthly skew We were almost at a -3 on the show last week, -2.85. Coming in the start of the show today, almost a -5, -4.9. And hanging out on the longer term front, 6-month Skew listeners, +1.4. We were saying last week, starting to see that whatever bullish premium there is to the longer term Skew kind of go away. And it's still hanging out at right around that level right now, +1.5. But again, nowhere near the long-term premium we're used to seeing out there. Mr. Bill, what are your thoughts on kind of what Greg was pointing out, vol buyers in Bitcoin right now not really being rewarded, and the fact that we are actually hanging out still mildly bearish to slightly positive on the Skew front in Bitcoin, sir?
Right. So, I don't disagree with that. Now, let me just say that looking at a Bitcoin chart, and I love point and figure charts. And, we have this consolidation. Actually, 2024 was basically a consolidation period with the exception of, say, September, when we launched and broke out of this 68 or 69,000 area in Bitcoin and rallied up to about 103 to 107,000. So this pullback that we're seeing now, I think there's a lot of support under the market here, in the 72 to 73,000 area. So I wouldn't expect Skew to get really steep in Bitcoin myself, especially, any kind of downside Skew, nor the upside Skew. So I think that Skew should be, if I was pricing Skew, I would price things a little bit flatter, because I'm not afraid of the downside, because I think we have a lot of consolidation and support to the downside, but also we have this recessionary cloud kind of coming over our nation and the economy over the next 3 to 6 months. So I think that, say what you want about the Skew, the way a Skew looks in Bitcoin, I just think that you have to assume a more flatter curve, and just, I'm not going to say with both hands, but I feel comfortable selling anything in Bitcoin volatility, just because I don't think the upside nor the downside in a big move is really going to be with us for the next, month or two.
Let's see what's with us out there in the land of some other products you folks like to trade Bitcoin through. Let's start with the big dog, which is IBIT, looking a little bit smaller this week as well. 44.5, down 2 3/4 points since our last show, listeners. Let's see, how low did IBIT go since last we chatted? It was nearly a 50 last week, 49 and about a half. Closed on Friday a little bit shy of 48, about 47.85. Got as low as 43.65. Looks like this morning. Actually, it hit 42.98 intraday this morning before rebounding back to a 44.5. Still down nearly $3, 2 3/4 from where it was last week. That ADV has been coming in a little bit, which is interesting. I don't think that's going to persist once you see the numbers for today. Down to 372, down 45,000 contracts from this time a week ago. But forget about that today. Putting up over 500,000 contracts already today, listeners. 554,000 contracts on the tape in IBIT. If you're wondering what is the big dog out there today, it's 25,000 of the 40 puts expiring this week on the 11th. So going into the weeklies, I was just checking while Bill was talking to see what prices those are going up for. And those are ranging in prices from about 30 cents all the way up to, looks like about 77 cents. Seems like the lion's share was paper selling those. So maybe drawing some lines in the sand, kind of getting back to what Bill was saying. He's comfortable selling some premium here in Bitcoin-related products and Bitcoin-related vol. And looks like some folks are doing that. You like those, listeners? And prices ranging from 30 to about 77 cents today on the 40 puts expiring this week. Obviously, you're getting IBIT put to you down around 39.25 if you get that best level there. So interesting stuff. If you're also wondering what is the largest open position in IBIT right now, it's the April 15 puts, 52,000 of those bad boys, which is kind of interesting. 15 put, a long way to go. Mr. Bill, what are your thoughts on the big dog out there from a crypto options perspective, aka IBIT, sir? And do you like those? You like selling the 40 puts for, let's just say you get the good print, 77 cents for this week, sir?
The 40 puts for 77 cents. Well, I'll tell you what, Mark. Yes, if you look at a chart pattern of IBIT and a chart pattern of BITO, it does look like we are at the bottom end of our 10-week moving average. And I think that that's an excellent place to initiate some trades. You're selling an 84 implied vol. Oh, is that right? Is it 84 implied vol? Is that right? No. I'm sorry, like a 66 vol. I mean, not too shabby for for like 4 days. You're collecting your 77 cents, 78 cents, and a 70 vol. I tell you what, if I'm going to take a chance, if I'm going to take a shot and ask myself that the 10-week moving average, which is that's probably the shortest indicator I look at, it goes between like 10 and 80 on a price basis. And we are at 10. We're probably at 8 on the 10-week moving average. So if you're going to lay into anything, I think that looking at the 10-week moving average, how far oversold we've got, the fact that the broad market in itself is like 135% oversold, as much as it was in COVID. And we all know what happened to Bitcoin during COVID, right? It went from like 8,000 to 60,000, like in a heartbeat. So I feel comfortable leaning long, long delta, short, collecting theta. I think that would be a great strategy. And maybe even sell some call spreads in case this thing just launches to the upside. What do you think of that? Buy IBIT, sell call spreads, right? So you have a little bit of upside just in case this thing does a slingshot back up to, from 44.5 to 60.
Has been known to happen in the past, sir. And at least you're right, you got some upside in your back pocket if you are doing that. Those puts are interesting, listeners. BITO also interesting right now at a 17, even down 1.5 points from where it was this time last week. That ADV coming back in as well, down to 36,000 contracts a day. That's down 4,000 from this time last week. But again, given today's numbers, probably going to go back the other direction. 44,000 contracts on the tape today. If you're wondering what's the big dog in BITO today, it's about 3,100 of the SEP 19 calls, end of the month. SEP 30th 19 calls, going up for $1.37. Looks like paper bought those bad boys. So kind of interesting, a bit of a scoop out there, kind of going the other way, Mr. Bill. They're not selling puts, they're just straight buying calls, but they're giving themselves some time in BITO. 19 calls for $1.37. Calls can be challenging in BITO because of that heavy dividend, but they're giving themselves some time to play, sir. What are your thoughts on those?
Let's see. The 19 calls, did you say in BITO?
In BITO for $1.37 in September, end of September.
Oh my God! You know what? Hey, you know what? That actually looks like a pretty decent trade. I am by nature not a option buyer. I was when I was on the trading floor. Definitely a long gamma trader, but this looks like it's got a pretty good shot. I'm okay with that. I'm okay. I like it. I like it, Mark. I think it's pretty good.
Well, maybe you like this one better, Mr. Bill. We profiled last week that same expiration, September 30th, but this time the 26 calls going up. That is still the number one size position in BITO right now, listeners. There's 34,000 of the 26 calls, so this could be laying it into a little bit of vertical against that, I suppose, but there's 34,000 of those open, so they're not doing anywhere near that amount of size. And those traded, we talked about those before. It looks like paper might have actually been selling those for prices around 58 cents back on March 17th is when they did most of this trade. So BITO was 1862. They sold the 26s, Mr. Bill, in BITO for September expiration for close to 60 cents. You like that one, or you like the other way better?
Well, since we want to collect a little bit of theta, but we want to be long units, I've got my pen and paper out, and this is the first time I looked at it. I'm going to look at this trade I got one client, as I said before, he's on the DGen page with me, and he's option approved. Maybe doing like a 2x3 or a 3x2 spread where I'm buying, out of the money, like your BITO September 19 calls and selling like some near dated stuff just to pay for it, but buy 3 and sell 2, and maybe I can do it for a small credit. I'm going to check that out after I get off the interview with you, and I'll bet you there's something we can put together here where we're protecting ourselves to the upside, but we're actually collecting theta, at these levels. So I'm gonna play around with that, Mark. I like that idea.
There you go, listeners. We're luring Mr. Bill to the dark side as we speak. Before we get out of Bitcoin and go into the altcoin universe, you have a question here for you, Mr. Bill. It's from our live chat. Option God wants to know, please remind us all one more time how Bill executes his custom MSTR strategy using options. He's still trying to get a handle on it. All right, Bill, I know you've broken it down for us a few times. Can you give us one more breakdown for Option God and anyone else who's still trying to come to grips with it? It's your custom roll your own, I suppose, MSTR strategy, sir?
Well, there's two ways you can do it. And ultimately, what Michael Saylor is doing is he's selling premium and he's buying intrinsic. He's selling securities. He's issuing shares of stock. He's issuing convertible bonds. And convertible bonds are like part bond, part stock. No, they're part bond and part option with an upside call spread. So he's selling volatility. Saylor talks about volatility all the time, and he is selling it. And what does he do with the proceeds? He buys Bitcoin, spot Bitcoin. So what we're doing for individual retirement accounts, rollover IRAs, for, again, those select few, I only have a handful of clients that are doing this, and I'm doing it for myself as well. But we buy the yield max income option ETFs that pay an insane distribution. And whenever a dividend or distribution comes in, we buy shares of IBIT. Or another roll your own is that we will go into the marketplace and, for example, so today's April 7th. I'll take a look at the April 17th put. The stock is trading 271. All right, so the 270 put is trading $20. Okay, so for every 100 shares of MicroStrategies you're doing, you're going to collect like $2,000 in premium. So I like cash secured puts. So just look at that. Sell one April 17th, 270 put. You collect $2,000. And with the $2,000, you buy an equivalent number. Once the contract expires and you get the, cash in your account, so to speak, right? Because you need that for margin. I mean, you need that for collateral as in your account. Then you buy, 50 shares of IBIT, and you do that every single month or every single week. Sell premium, buy intrinsic. Sell put options, buy intrinsic. Do covered calls, and when you have the cash left over, buy intrinsic. Intrinsic being Bitcoin. It's pretty simple. It doesn't work every month, but that's what Saylor's doing. In essence, he's doing, right? This is like the inspiration behind this roll your own strategy that we're doing. I personally like the MicroStrategies, call option premium thing better, like doing covered calls or cash secured puts, and then buying IBIT, which is, spot Bitcoin. I prefer that over the yield max trade. It's just that yield max has, I can do Coinbase, MicroStrategies, NVIDIA, Facebook. I can do like a whole host of other things in ETF format, and they're doing the covered calls basically for me. So it's just whether you want to be a lazy trader or you want to be more active, and that's it. That's the sum.
Good stuff, listeners. As we keep on rolling, it is time to explore the altcoin universe.
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the altcoin universe.
All right, listeners, to the altcoin universe we go, where we explore everything outside of the big dog, which is Bitcoin, except for right now here at the top of the show where we talk about market cap. And yeah, as you might imagine, a little bit lower this week than last week in terms of what it cost you to break into the top 10. Last week, it was about $22.75 billion to break into the top 10. That got you to Tron. This week, it is about $20.5 billion. So down about $2.25 billion in market cap. And that gets you not to Tron, but to what was number 9 on the list, Cardano, fall into number 10 this week. Number 9, Tron. So Tron climbing the market cap list, even if it is down from an overall market cap level. Climbing all the way to number 9 out there, listeners. It's Tron, $21.75 billion worth of market cap. Number 8, it's Doge, 22.16. Number 7, it's Solana, $55.25 billion. Solana taking a bit of a beating this morning, getting down to, looks like about $96, 96 and change out there. So taking quite the drubbing, certainly well off its highs of, I think, around 260 and change not too long ago, and 150, 125. I know a lot of folks were nibbling around there. Breaking the 100 handle, hanging out 105 as we're coming into, well, we'll get to all the Solana fun in a little bit, but Solana number 7, 55.25. Number 6, it's USD Coin, 60.1 billion. Number 5, it's BNB Coin, 79.1 billion. Number 4, it's XRP, breaking $2, $1.91, 111 billion worth of market cap. Number 3, it's Tether, 144. Number 2, it's ETH, because of course it is 188.75 billion. Man, ETH falling on hard times. The number one is Bitcoin, 1.5 trillion worth of market cap. Let's get out to what is number two in market cap still, at least for the time being. If these trends continue, though, listeners, that may not be the case for much longer. Only looks like about 44 billion separating ETH from Tether at this point, which they can give that up in a week, no problem, given the rate that ETH is just eroding. 1844 on our show last week, 1567 coming into the start of the show today. Listen, that puts us down almost 3 handles, about 277 handles. How low do we get this morning? Got down to 1442 during the big sell-off this morning, listeners. So, yeah, just if you've been listening to our Futures Rundown show on the network, and you should be, listeners, at the end of the day, you know ETH is number 2 in terms of losers for the year, and after this week, it might take the number 1 spot. Again, not a list you want to be on for an asset unless you're heavily short it, but ETH, wow. It was north of 4,000 not that long ago, listeners. So ETH getting taken to the woodshed. Mr. Bill, what are your thoughts here on the performance or lack thereof of the, at least for right now, still number 2 crypto asset, sir?
You know, I can't help but almost shed a little tear for Ethereum because, boy, you know, it's been an incredible journey that Ethereum has been on. And really at, you know, $1,500 a token, it's just like $150 above its 2018 price. You know, I tell you, it sure looks like it's kind of middling between 1,200 and 4,000. Just looking at a 5-year chart of Ethereum. Mark, I don't know what to tell you, brother. I mean, this crypto stuff moves quickly. We know what we're signing up for. We know what we're getting into. And I tell you, it's disappointing to see Ethereum go from 4,000 to 1,500 so quickly. And again, let's just go back and say, you know, why? Is it correlation? Is it the S&P 500? I mean, Bitcoin's actually performing better than like crude oil or the S&P, like year to date, they're practically the same. But yeah, Ethereum has definitely gotten the snot beat out of it. And yeah, it's frustrating. Middle of the 10-week moving average is 2450. So I think once the market stabilizes and we begin, retracing and reverting to the mean, as we like to say, we'll probably see a rally back up into the 22 to 2600 area. But it's going to probably take a little bit more energy to get that thing up.
Our buddy, Mr. Dr. Vix on VolViews, he famously washed his hands of Ether a few years ago at 2,500. And we like to give him a hard time when it got north of that. It wasn't north of it for too long, Mr. Bill, before he's looking good again at his 2,500 level. And also, our chat agrees with you, Mr. Bill, that they're shedding a lot of tears over Ether, they're saying right now. So, yeah, you are not alone. Are you shedding a tear out there, listeners, on this just meltdown? People were hoping coming into this year, there was a lot of hope that ETH would play a lot of catch up and at least make up some ground on Bitcoin and Solana. And it has just gone completely the other way. It's wild for an asset that was so beloved and still is, maybe not beloved anymore, but still well-liked to a great degree. But, man, the mighty have indeed fallen, listeners. A 7-day vol reflecting that it was 74.1 on the show last week, 97.6 this week. So weekly vol ticking up, getting spicy as that sell-off continues. That's what you're going to see. 30-day vol, 66 on the show last week, 77.25. So unlike Bitcoin vol, we are seeing a little bit of ETH vol ticking up. Maybe you want a little more if you're out there buying some vol, but still interesting stuff. And long-term vol, what are the holders up to? There were 65 on the show last week, 70 today. So obviously vol ticking up across the board in ETH. Skew-wise, we were hanging out in dark side territory last week, -10 on the weekly skew last week. That is -14.5 right now. You can't expect that to turn around until the Ether actually turns around. So expect a premium to the puts for the foreseeable future. By the way, we got down to about a -21 in the weekly skew just yesterday. So things were looking pretty dire then. On the monthly skew, -7.5 on the show last week, 10.65, -10.65 this week's obviously continuing to tick down. Got as low as almost -13 yesterday, -12.75. Obviously not going to see as much impact on the monthly skew as you do on the weekly skew, but still fascinating to see the nadir of that over the weekend. And then on the 6-month front, we've got the Skew was a +1. There was still a little bit of hope. +1 last week. That's starting to erode as well. +0.6. It'll be interesting to see if that will go negative on a future show, maybe even by next week. If we see even the 6-month Skew turning negative, then you know, even the hodlers are starting to give up hope. Let's keep rolling some of the other assets out here, listeners. Solana, like I mentioned, climbing back up today, was 107 1/3 when we kicked off the show. Got down to, like I said, 96 and change this morning. So Solana just getting taken to the woodshed. Last week it was 125 1/4. So that puts it, as we kicked off the show, down nearly 18 handles. Obviously got much lower this morning. So wild times for Solana. XRP was hanging out glued around $2.50 forever. It seemed like 211 on the show last week, down to 191, down another 20 cents this week. Bill's beloved Doge, 16.6 cents last week, 14.8 cents this week, down about 1.7 cents on the week. Litecoin, 83.30 last week, $70.80. Litecoin has been moving a little bit of late out here, listeners. I was getting some notifications. Yeah, I got down to 63.92 this morning. So Litecoin getting beat up, I think is the technical term. I was getting notifications from some of my platforms like Litecoin, big mover. It certainly was getting taken to the woodshed. Getting some of that back now, about $71 as we're talking right now. It's down a little over $12 net on the week, obviously getting much lower this week. Cardano, 65, almost 66 cents last week, 57 cents this week. Polkadot, 405 last week, 360 this week, down about 45 cents. And Bill's other beloved name, Shiba Inu. Cover your ears, Chad. I know you're waiting for the Shiba Lambos. A million zeros, 124 last week, this week, 113. So got to give up a few of the lug nuts and bolts on the hubcaps of those Lambos. Mr. Bill, what is catching your eye in the rest of the altcoin universe this week, sir?
Well, I've got 3 that I like, and ones that your listeners are definitely familiar with. So I do like Dogecoin. Dogecoin, if you go back to 2022, 2023, and just draw your typical, nothing fancy, easy peasy, bullish trend line, we have the bottom put in crypto winter at say 3.5, 4 cents. Then the next low was put in 2024 at about 9 cents. And if you just follow those bottoms all the way up, we're right about there at 13.5 to 15 cents. So from a technical standpoint, I think Doge looks pretty good. The next one, I kind of like the chart pattern, and it's gotten a little bit of chatter out there, is DigiByte. DigiByte's a cryptocurrency. It's super fast, super cheap. It's decentralized in a different manner than Bitcoin, where it uses 5 different algorithms to secure the network so that you can't have a 51% attack on the DigiByte network. It's one of those cryptocurrencies that they were like one of the first mover adopters, coming out in like 2013. People have forgotten about it, but I like the chart pattern of DigiByte. It looks really interesting. Again, right around a penny a token. That I like the way that looks. And also, speaking of alerts, I set an alert on XLM, Stellar Lumens, and it's gotten a little bit smoked here, Mark. It was trading 54 cents per token. Now it's down in the 22 cents per token. The bullish trend line and its 10-week moving average is around 16 cents per token. So we still have a little way to go down there, but I do like the fact that we kind of are entering some consolidation area. It had a giant rally, and now we're seeing the correlation and the rug pull in this right now. So I kind of like those 3 for the time being for today. So it's Doge, Stellar Lumens, and oh my gosh, what was the one Stellar Lumens and DigiByte, right? Yeah, those are my three faves right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of your names. Like DigiByte's had an interesting run of late, kind of getting down a little bit again. So if you want to maybe if you like a more attractive level, maybe DigiByte's for you. Obviously, Doge. Everyone has their own opinions on Doge out there. You love it, you hate it. You love Musk, you hate Musk. It's all tied in with all that fun out there. But maybe you think he still has a little bit of pull, in which case he can maybe drive that higher. There's a lot of talk about him someday using it as for payments on X and things like that. So that they've been saying that for a while, though. And then Lumens right now, listeners, Stellar Lumens, 23 cents, up about a dime over the past year. Let's see, over the last week, it's fallen off from about 27 cents. Got down to 20 cents this morning before recovering a little bit. So in the midst of a little bit of a rebound, looks like the high that it got to this past year and all the rally of crypto madness was 53 cents. So if you like that level, could have some more upside to go. Looks like all time it got back in the madness of 2021 up to 67 cents. And in actually 2017, it got up to about that level as well, close to 70 cents. So there you go, listeners. That's Bill's altcoin for the week. Doge, DigiByte, and Stellar Lumens. What are your altcoin for the week? Hit us up. Let us know. All right, listeners, that music means we've come to the end. I see our chat, Mr. Bill. They're lamenting no Shiba Lambos this week. But they're saying can't go much lower for them, so I guess they're enjoying that. So there you go, Mr. Bill. A lot of fun out there. Mr. Bill, we had a wild ride, went all over the place this week. Roll your own MSTR, BITO puts and calls, IBIT. A lot of living out there in IBIT and BITO today, of course, lamenting a little bit of ETH. We talked some Doge and DigiByte and Solana and SLM. We kind of ran the gamut today, Mr. Bill. That said, if folks want to reach out to you, either maybe to check out your book or maybe to talk to you about crypto or traditional assets, where should they go? What should they do?
Sure. Just visit our website at cenaclecapital.com. That's CENACLE, cenaclecapital.com. Check out our newly designed website. Tell us what you think. Tell us if you find any typographical errors or grammatical errors. And reach out to us through the website. And again, we would love to have that conversation. And if you are a crypto fan, if you are an options enthusiast, then I am your advisor because I can have those conversations. And I love trading options. I love collecting theta. And that would be an awesome conversation to have in this uncertain yet volatile time period that we find ourselves in.
Very uncertain. If you need a hand to hold in these crazy markets, listeners, maybe talk you off the ledge, Bill can certainly do that. And maybe help you come up with some fun strategies out there to use some of that options premium to get a little bit of intrinsic, as he says out there. Check it out. You can also follow him over there at Cenacle Capital on Twitter, CENACLE Capital, all one word over there. And while you're checking things out, check out our friends over there at Amber Data. They put out great stuff. Like I was just checking out their newsletter right before the show, listeners. There's great data in there. That's all free too. So the GUI is free, the newsletter, everything is free. So you should at the very least be taking advantage of that data that they are giving you and crunching for you for free, listeners. If you're even remotely intrigued by these markets, trust me, that kind of data gets you ahead of the game, ahead of the masses out there who all they know is spot, listeners. There's a lot more going on the vol side and the derivative side. You can be ahead of the game checking out that data over there at Amber Data. That's going to do it for us on the network today. Another wild one. Let's just see where we're hanging out as we're coming into the end of the session. You know, on the equity front, listeners, we've been whipping and sawing. It seems like maybe the whip is back in effect, or maybe it's the saw. Either way, coming back down a little bit, the markets are still red again. They were ticking green earlier today. So it's a wild day. Anytime VIX cash is north of 40, let alone threatening 50 and beyond, listeners, you know you have to sit up and pay attention. That's the kind of markets we're in. Doesn't seem like it's going away anytime soon unless they wave the white flag over there in Washington. So keep an eye out for that. Join us tomorrow. I see some folks in the chat saying, got to think of some good questions for the pro. Yes, should be a good one tomorrow with Dr. Vic. So start getting those questions in now for Dr. Vic. We are always fully subscribed whenever he joins us on the Pro Q&As. Make sure, start getting them now. You can use the members hotline if you're listening, or you can use the live chat if you want to use that too. Get them in. Producers will start collating those, get those in ahead of time before the Pro Q&A. And then we have all the rest of our content throughout the rest of the week until we're back again next Monday. Who knows what kind of markets we'll be talking about then, listeners. Got to tune in to find out. So we'll see you next Monday, another episode of the Crypto Rundown. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.